Welcome to Oppidan Talks. We're delighted today to have with us Antonio and Carla Sersale, calling us from Positano in Italy. To give you a little background, in 1951, there were 4 siblings from Naples who decided to turn their summer house in Positano into a seaside hotel. And today, the Hotel Sirenuse stands as a 58-room centerpiece to the Amalfi Coast. Son to one of those 4 original founders, Antonio, who's joining us today, has captained that ship with his wife Carla since 1992. And they also have the Emporio Sirenuse, which is the shop across the road run by Carla with the designs that are sold from Positano around the world. Not just any hotel, the Sirenuse is a place that has retained incredible family intimacy alongside its status as a world leader in the hospitality industry. We are so delighted to have you both with us today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We were hoping you could kick off with maybe a little bit of the inside story on the hotel, how it came about and your involvement.
Well, the hotel was started by my father, 2 brothers and a sister after the war, because what happened is they were living in Naples and this was a summer house. And they decided during the war to come to live in Positano because my grandfather was in a tram car, a bomb fell near it, and some of the people in the tram were killed. He lost 2 fingers, he got very scared, and Naples was continuously bombed, so he wanted to move away. So he brought the family to Positano, and this is where they spent the duration of the war. And so after the war, they decided, as they had tons of friends coming to visit them, that they would turn the house into a hotel. So in 1951, with 12 rooms, it opened.
Amazing. And 28 years with you running it. Just to give you an idea, the average age of our listeners is about 12 or 13. Could you tell us perhaps a little bit about your childhood and how it kind of led towards your career?
Well, my childhood was spent basically between, I was born in England, then I lived in Italy, and then my mother went to live in Mexico. So I went to live with her in Mexico from the age of 6 to 9. And then from the age of 9, my schooling was not very good in Mexico because I was living in a little village and mostly playing marbles and very good at it as well. And I decided that I needed some proper schooling, so I was sent to live with my father in Milan. So from the age of 9 to 12, I lived with my father in Milan, and was already very close friends with Carla's family. Yes. Because Carla's parents were very good friends with my father. And so at the age of 12, my father moved to Iran. So I lived from the age of 12 to 16 in Iran with my father. And then at 16, my father felt I needed to be in a more sort of nurturing sort of a place. So I went to live, I went to boarding school in England. I was sent to Millfield in Somerset and spent, did my A and O levels there, then went to learn French and went to the hotel school in Switzerland, which was where I really began digging my teeth into the hotel industry.
So was there a point at which you thought, yeah, actually I could get on board with this life of working in the hotel and running it?
Well, you know, the hotel school is very interesting because what happens is that it's part professional and part theoretical. So you go and you spend 6 months at the school studying the theory and doing some hands-on, but then you're sent for 6 months into, for example, I spent 6 months working in a kitchen. Then I did the same thing with service and the same thing with the reception. So by the 4 years and a half, you really feel you're beginning to get a grips with the actual industry, which is, you know, so when you're thrown out into the wide world, you actually have some solid basis on which to make your initial decisions.
And when you were growing up, for context, Antonio and Carla, we're a mentoring business. We believe every child deserves, needs a mentor, someone to guide them and ask questions to. Did you both have a mentor growing up? Was there someone you could kind of rely on for some direction?
Well, I wasn't born in the hotel industry, nor was I born in the in fashion. But when I arrived in Positano in '92, his father, who was an old friend of my father, so I've known him all my life, and he had opened a little shop in front of the hotel 2 years prior. He said, you're a woman, you can deal with the shop. And I was shocked at the beginning because I had studied law. I wasn't really prepared for running a shop. But you learn, I mean, it was a small shop. So for a long time, I just run the shop in a very basic way, and the family never complained. So it was fine. And I experimented many different ways. And then my niece started to live in India and made a trunk show in Milan, and she was really talented. So I went to India for 2 months and made the first collection. And then that collection was very successful. So then we started selling it all over the world, and it became a serious business. But I mean, it's inspiring to be in Positano and to see his family that was here. I mean, his father was always a very big person in my family as well. And his father's brother, Aldo, that was the founder of this hotel, was amazing. It was an amazing personality. And they've begun this whole industry, this whole world that we live in. So I guess we drew inspiration from them.
Carla, was there a moment where you thought, what am I getting myself in for here?
Many moments. But
Still having those.
I mean, I think in life it's important to make one decision at a time, because if you start looking at all the difficulties, you panic. But then you focus on one decision, and then another decision, and then another decision. One little step at a time, you go forward.
So I'm going to ask a very simple question. So children running a hotel is a very glamorous thing. It's steeped in romance and in history. Children want to know. We want to know. What is something really fun about running a hotel? What's the funnest thing about running a hotel, would you say?
Well, I would say definitely the funnest thing is the interesting people you get to meet. So, I think life is very much about interacting with people that inspire you, that are doing something interesting with their lives, whatever it might be, and that they have passion. And the hotel gives you access to that. And I think that access really makes a tremendous change in your life. But it's not all glamour. There's a lot of, because the thing about hotels is that they're very labor intensive, especially luxury hotels. So there's also a lot of looking after everyone that you collaborate with, all the staff, and making sure that they're okay, and that people are happy. And because if they're happy, then they can give the best to the guests. So I think it's an equilibrium between, this wonderful side that you have these incredible people coming to visit you, but then on the other side is really making sure that all the people that they're also interacting with are just as happy and content as I am.
But also, I mean, we meet a lot of people every night, and we have drinks or dinner with different people every night, and it's really inspiring because you get to know them quite well. Because people come here on holiday, so they're very relaxed, and it's a privilege to meet sometimes very important people that are very relaxed, that in their normal life you probably never even have a chance to meet, but we can invite them for dinner, and they come and they chat freely, and they express their own world to us, and that really is every day enriching our life.
It's been such a success for so long. Can I ask, has there been any difficult situations? Have there been any disasters of note?
Well, I mean, there always, we had a fire, for example, in our spa. That was a very difficult moment, but we put it out ourselves. I mean, there are moments which are very, very difficult. I mean, there are always moments.
Including this year.
I mean, this year is an incredibly difficult year. We are 50% staffed at 50%. Our occupancy is basically, you know, very low, but it's the same for all the luxury sector, you know. But it's, I mean, you've just got to focus and concentrate and you know, and sort of navigate these treacherous waters, really, when these moments happen. But they happen in any industry. They happen in, you know, they're just moment in anyone's life, really.
Yeah, I guess you cannot really complain, because wherever you look, people are suffering. This is an exceptional year, and maybe you need those years in order to refocus and in order to see what you need to change.
I mean, in everyone's business, we found things that we would do differently as a result of this, and some positives, I'm sure. Has there been anything for you that you've really kind of woken up to as a result of the last few months?
Well, the one thing that's really, I mean, that's really incredible is to see this village with about a third of the people that it normally has, and to see how pleasant it is. I mean, how lovely it is. But the sad thing is that it's not sustainable. So I think the interesting thing going forward will be trying to find a balance, which is both, on the one hand, sustainable economically for all the enterprises here. And also the same can be said for the Italian art cities, because all the Italian art cities are empty and they're incredibly beautiful. But, you know, the thing is, can a new equilibrium be found between the economical sort of well-being of the country, of the people, and, you know, the sustainability of the number of people visiting, transiting through these cities?
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So the brand Sirenuse is high profile, it's luxury, it's extremely successful. There must be a temptation to want to continuously develop that brand. To what extent do you have to say, let's consolidate and let's do something really well, versus let's try and develop and see what else we can do with the name?
You know, we did a restaurant in Miami, and that was immensely successful. It opened for 3 years, and then COVID came along. So actually now we've just closed it. You know, the situation in Miami is very complicated, very delicate. And so yes, if something interesting comes along, but I think, you know, one can't just expand for the sake of expanding. One has to expand to do something that's interesting, you know, that's worth it, you know, also worth the time, the energy, but not just from a money point of view, but also from, it has to be fun, it has to be challenging, it has to be beautiful, and it has to be interesting. And it has to be something that people that have stayed here, go there, feel that there is a relationship. Otherwise, there's no point.
And can I ask, Carla, have you found that in recent years, the shop has become a real linchpin for the hotel in terms of the kind of pulling power it can have as a brand, taking the Sirenuse name with something that's much more scalable, I suppose, in terms of the beachwear you're selling?
Well, it's two different worlds, really, because one is fashion, the other one is a hotel. They're interlinked, but not so automatically. So it took a long time, relatively speaking, to send out the message to be absorbed by the world that the Sirenuse also meant a fashion brand. And but now I think, you know, we are in all the major department stores and online outlets, and so we have achieved a starting point. And now my son has come in, and I hope to to take it even further. And we look forward to expand it even more. I mean, and then eventually it will help the hotel. So far, it's been the other way around, I have to say, but because we started from zero. But it is now kind of recognized. So it's actually a satisfaction to see how these two worlds interact.
Can I ask also, I'm sure you both have books in you, not one book, but several. And I'm sure you're probably too diplomatic and polite to say any of the real horror stories that there are behind the scenes. But have you had some hilarious moments down the years? There must have been some real comic gold that have come from multiple years on the scene. I
mean, there's always, little funny things, you know, that happen. I mean, there was a couple that was fighting terribly, and I was called into the room, and they were throwing things. The room was a mess, and so we convinced I think the boyfriend or whatever, to leave the hotel. We walked him out of the hotel, and
kicked him out.
We
Really?
kicked him out and took him to another hotel, and told him that if he appeared in the hotel, we would call the police. And of course, what happened is that 10 minutes later, the girlfriend came and wanted to see where the boyfriend was. And so the next day, the boyfriend came back, and we said to them, look, if you make any more noise, we're going to, have to ask you to leave. And then they were very polite and very nice, and it was just a fight. And it was a very dramatic fight, I must say.
I'm sure you've had many more proposals than you have fights. I would imagine.
They became two lambs, these two.
Can I ask a question about customers? So, a brand is so tight in terms of the perception that you're trying to be perceived. With Instagram and with the rise of TripAdvisor, customer is king, right? Do you feel you have do you feel lack of control almost in your hotel in terms of that brand, or are you still pretty rigid in what's being perceived?
I don't think we have lack of control. I think, what happens is that there's always the people that come and might not appreciate it, because of one thing that it's very difficult for someone to appreciate everything about the hotel. We try to do, like, the tiles are handmade, all the furniture is handmade. We use artisans, we use artists. Everything is curated to the utmost. But for example, some people don't notice that. They might notice that the air conditioning is not at the temperature that they want it. And so sometimes you want to say, look, I understand that the air conditioning temperature is not right, but what about all the rest? Do you see what I mean? So I think it sometimes is very difficult to control the way that people interact. The majority of people appreciate the enormous work that goes into every single detail, but some people don't. So that's when I think you lose, in a way, control of the brand, is when you feel that you've done so much and it's not appreciated.
It must be so frustrating when that kind of thing happens.
I have two kind of bite-sized questions, and then if Walter doesn't have one to add, we just have a little quick fire round at the end. The first of my questions is a simple one, but probably difficult to answer, which is, what makes a great hotel?
I would say service. Definitely service. I think, the most important part is your interaction with the people that are looking after you, and that has to be magical. And these people have to care and really want to be there to help, not to serve, but to help and to assist and to look after your needs. And I think that is the most important thing. And when we get comment cards, very few people, yes, will comment on the view. The view is very important. But what they will really comment on is how well they were looked after and with how much passion they were looked after.
And my final question is, for any of those future hoteliers or hospitality industry children out there with a career brewing, what would your advice be for those young people?
I think the advice definitely is to get your hands dirty, as to maybe do a little job as a waiter, even in a pub or in a restaurant, or try it out, see if you've got a feeling for it, and then maybe go and see, when the time comes that you need to go to university, go and see maybe one of the hotel schools. That's what we did with our sons. We showed the hotel school to our boys, without in any way forcing them. And one son loved it and wanted to go there. The other one had no interest, and he went to Nottingham University. So I just think, I think it's something that if you can try, get a feel for, and then, and then maybe go and see some hotel schools and see.
Yeah, because it's not for everybody. It's you need to love people. And, some people get really stressed by having all these people around all day.
From my perspective, you must have unrivaled patience.
It's fun, I tell you. It shouldn't be a burden, because otherwise you better do something else.
So we have a little quick fire round. Walter, would you like to kick us off?
So Antonio, Carla, this is where we ask some direct questions, hoping for a direct answer. And they range from lots of different things, but we generally take questions from the crowd when we do these live, but we have a 4 or 5 questions which we're going to ask you. And I'm going to start. if you weren't doing this, what would be your alternative career, do you think?
I would do this.
And Carla?
I love it so much. I would do this.
I would probably be a lawyer in Milan. I'm probably a criminal lawyer.
Ooh,
But that was my plan anyway. Before
have
I met this guy.
have you had we won't ask you any details on them, but have you had either of you a favorite guest you've ever hosted?
I mean, yes, so many. I mean, but we've had some fantastic people. I mean, really, I mean, each one, I mean, it's so difficult, you know, each one has been so special in their own way, you know. It's
well, some guys really became friends. And then so, because our life is very intertwined into that of the hotel. So it's hard to say we're a guest and being a guest and starts being a friend and the other way around. But we cannot make names.
Oh, we tried.
Other than Positano, where's your favorite place to visit on earth?
well, I love Rome, for example. We have a house in Rome, and we absolutely love Rome.
We also love New York and London. I mean, every big city, because we're in a little village here.
Need to get out, experience the polluted air.
Yeah.
If you had I'm going to say it would be an Italian meal, your last meal on earth. I'm assuming Italian, but which Italian food would be your last meal on earth?
Pasta pomodoro.
Pasta pomodoro for sure.
Pasta
Yes,
pomodoro.
there's no other way.
There you go, to all the kids listening out there. Pasta with tomato sauce. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all people want. Even the Italians.
Can't be any simpler.
No. Well, Antonio, Carla, thank you so much for joining. I have one last question, which is to sort of scan the horizon in 20 years' time, you know, with the continuing rise of Airbnb and TripAdvisor and, you know, the fallout from COVID. Where do you think the hotel industry will be in 20 years' time? Will there be dramatic shifts? Do you think there'll be a big change?
I think that exceptional quality will remain what it is. I think one has to be afraid of mediocrity. I think that one has to strive for excellence, and then one is safe. I think, you know, Airbnb is definitely a contender to a mediocre hotel, but it's definitely not a contender to an exceptional hotel. And I think, you know, as young children are looking towards the future, I think they have to strive for the best. And for example, when I was very early on in my career, someone came up to me and I was having a conversation, and he said, you know, you've got to work in 5-star hotels always work in 5-star hotels, because then when people look at your curriculum vitae, they will look at a series of places that make sense one after the other. So I say, strive for excellence always.
And on that point of striving for excellence, we can't let you leave without trying our game. So we have, I'm not in our office, so I don't have it with me, but we have a leaderboard of around 30 names who have all tried this. The great and the good, from sport to business to acting, music, drama, whatever. And it's very simple. You have a maximum of 30 seconds to try and get the biscuit from your forehead to your mouth without using your hands. And because we have 2 of you, you can compete against one another.
And what about glasses?
You can take your glasses off. Those would get in the way. My advice is not too much speed at the top. A lot of people, and if it falls off, you can try again. Doesn't matter. But some people call it the after it game. We call it biscuit face.
As I set my timer, the current record, Antonio and Carla, is held by a man with a beard who used a hobnob, who did it in about 6 seconds.
What's a hobnob?
It's a sort of crunchy biscuit in the UK. And he anyway. So we'll set the timer.
Oh, go for it.
Don't get chocolate on your nice white shirt.
It's impossible because the nose is there.
Carla, that was good. You made a good effort there. Last go.
But does anybody succeed?
Well, not many, no.
Antonio, did you make it?
No. It keeps on falling down. It's a disaster.
All right, you've done it. You've given it a good go.
What's funny is the children listening or watching this, who will soon come to the Sirenuse in 10 years' time with their families, will say, I beat Antonio and Carla at Biscuit Face. That's the idea.
They will show you. They will show us how to do it.
Thank you.
That they meet you at Aldo's bar and they say, "I recognize you because you lost at Biscuit."
Thank you very much.
No, thank you guys so much for joining us. We're very grateful for you giving us your time during what I know is a frantic summer. And we wish you all the best. And I can't wait for Walter and I to find an excuse to meet you for a drink at Aldo's bar.
Yes, I think you have to come.
We'd love that.
We can't wait. I'm sending you back into the ether. Thank you both very much.
Bye.
Bye, Antonio. Bye, Carla.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wow. What a cool story. What an amazing couple. So much passion.
Yeah.
So much experience.
It's that the advice Antonio gave at the end on the hotel industry is applicable for any industry, isn't it? You know, strive for excellence and rise above mediocrity.
Some very sage advice. So on that note, thank you very much for joining us. For other Oppidan talks, check out our YouTube channel. There's all sorts up there. And Walter, I will see you next time for Oppidan Talks.